Welcome to Rough City Athletics. Today I'm going to bring you the Sumo Deadlift. Sumo Deadlifting is one of the two versions of deadlifting that is seen in competition powerlifting. When we see competitors, you see either the conventional style where your legs are inside of your arms, and then the sumo style where your legs are outside of your arms. There's a few different reasons that this is utilized. Most notoriously is that it is a reduced range pull. That's why you quite often see people do it. They don't have to move the bar as far, so if they have mobile hips, they're able to take advantage of that. Today I'm going to show you the major details that go with where to place your feet and how you can work on improving that placement, and a few strategies to get your groin nice and strong and mobile so that you don't have any issues with sumo pulling. Alright, so as I said before, the sumo deadlift is essentially whenever your legs are outside of your arms. So in setting up, we want to make sure that we have that first off. And so when people set up, they're going to be most often grabbing the bar with their hands on the knurling. When we look at the sumo deadlift then, the narrow version of that is going to be where my legs are right against my arms. In this position, for anyone who is new to sumo deadlifting and mostly just unconventional, this is where to start. This will be least stressful in your groin and shouldn't give any hip irritation. So start here, get comfortable, and progressively take your feet out over time. So you see I sit up here, I'm working on my pull, which we'll talk about in a second. And then as I get more and more comfortable with the movement, I'll just inch my feet out until I find where I'm most comfortable or maxed out, one of those two things. So after I get past that point, we want to look at where should I place my feet to have the most optimal pull. There's going to be a number of things that go into this decision. How mobile are you? How strong are you in various ways? And what is your comfort level so that you don't have hip irritation? A lot of people who pull very wide, if they don't have mobile hips, they're going to get hip irritation and then they're going to have troubles with it. That's why you hear about a lot of groin irritation and sartorius irritation with sumo deadlifting. So in changing those things, what we can look at is when I set up and have my hands here, having my feet placed, I want to be able to have my knees in line with my toes. As I change that, for instance, if I have my toes pointed forward, I'm going to have troubles, typically, with having my knees stay in line with my toes well. It's going to be challenging on the hips, so if you have the mobility to do that, then fine. But if not, I'm going to be in concern of either having a lot of valgus stress on my knee or a rotational stress where I'm working really hard to try and get that. So for most people, the easiest thing to do is, as you take your feet wider, start to turn your feet out more and more and more. So you see, when I stand here, my feet are going to be pointed out more towards the edge of the plates. As I stand here, my feet are only slightly pointed out. And this is going to change from individual to individual, so it's hard to say you will have 15 degrees of rotation at this position. It's going to depend upon how mobile you are. We can see that different individuals are going to pull from different widths. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So this is a generalized version, and you want to play with whatever is best for you. And within the things that I just said, that's the starting point. The next thing we want to look at is, can I find a position where I'm able to keep my foot underneath my knee? So this is where mobility is going to play a huge factor. We see someone who's a more narrow stance puller, like Ed Cohn. He sets up, and he's here, and he's driving out, and he has that knee over top of his foot here. Whereas we look at someone who's much more of a wide stance puller, someone like Byron Wiley, one of our athletes, Bryce Lewis, they are standing very wide. But as they do that, they are able to keep their knee over their ankle. So in this position, I'm not able to pull from here very proficiently because I can't get that mobility out there. The advantage of being able to do that is that I keep my hips as close to the bar as possible, and it's going to be least stressful on my back. So for me, I'm going to be standing right here. I'm able to get my knees over my ankles, and I'm able to drive into the ground vertically. So that's the major details that are going to go into choosing your foot width in sumo deadlifting. So the next thing we're going to go over is how to improve your tissue structure so you can get your stance wider. So a couple of things that you can do. First off, you're going to want to work on soft tissue work. So whether that is going to see a massage therapist, getting them to loosen out your groin, your hip structure, and then the next thing that you can do is do self myofascial release. So whether that's foam rolling, lacrosse ball work, my favorite method for this area is to take a medicine ball, place it on a box or a bench, and then have my leg up to the side and go into that area and get very direct with it. You can also make people uncomfortable when you make eye contact with them as you do it. The next thing that we can do is a series of mobility drills that target that area. So I'm going to take you through those now. So when we're doing this, there's a few different variations that we can look at in the mobility series to improve the sumo. When we pull sumo, we go through a position where we have a hip flexed and then to a hip extended. We also go from a position where the knee is flexed to a knee extended position. So in saying that, the adductors have some muscles that cross the hip joint and the knee joint and some that don't. So we're going to be working on targeting both of those. So the first one I like to start people off with, it's a little bit less aggressive, is a split stance adductor mob. So set up here, and I start off in a quadruped position, take my leg straight to the side, and then from here I flow going into hip flexion and extension. And as I do this, I want to work on keeping a flat back, so it transfers over to the sumo deadlift to the best capabilities. And I'm working on getting as far back as I can, and as far forward as I can without extensively arching my back. From here I can move on into the frog, which is a bilateral version. I can play around with where my feet are located as I do this. I can then go into a tall split stance adductor mob. So this is transferring over more and more towards that sumo. I can also go bilateral, where I'm now working on trying to challenge both sides. So as you improve your mobility, you can also start to work on strengthening those areas. So one of my favorite ways to do this towards the sumo deadlift are to work on taking a wide stance, similar to where you want to be able to pull from, and then working on unilateral strength. So I'm working on squatting over to one side, squatting over to the other side, working back and forth. I can start to load this up as I get more proficient with it. I can start to add in a goblet carry, and that way I can work on strengthening up the groin in that area. Alright, so today we brought you the sumo deadlift, working on the stance, working on how to change your stance, find what is the best one for you, and also ways to improve it through soft tissue work, mobility exercises, and strengthening exercises. Once you get strong in those positions, you'll be able to take advantage of your sumo position a lot better. So, if you have any questions, send us an email. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and thank you to CrossFit AC for letting me film the video here.